Hey everyone, this is Nitro. So in this video, I want to talk about my basically bread and butter strategy, which got me up to Langrisser rank. And the strategy that got me up to Langrisser, in truth, was summons. Okay. For Season 1, this strategy only does work for Season 1. By having a summon character, you can basically allow yourself to move 2 characters in a row at the end of your turn while your opponent has nobody left to move. So, the summoning strategy can win you matches very effectively as a result, because being able to move 2 characters in a row basically guarantees your ability to kill off one of your enemy's characters. And you can see, if you look at my list, for example, I've named most of these battles but according to the method that I've won them by. So you can see, when I played this weekend, I'm going to skip this battle because it reveals a bit too much about my party. But here is one where I won by a summon. This is another one where I won by a summon. A third one where I won by a summon. And in the fourth battle, well, both is a friend, and he was kind enough to basically, I guess, suicide to allow me to get into Langrisser. But the battle that I'm skipping as well, against True God, that was also a victory by summons. So in other words, when I started playing Apex Arena matches yesterday on October 26th, my point was only at 1805. Winning 5 matches in a row got me up to 1901, and 4 of those victories were summon based. So it just shows how important it is to have a summon on an extra summon that your opponent doesn't have. In addition to that, if I scroll down a bunch, turn management 0 to 1 kind of means I have an extra summon again. 2 to 2 summons means this was equal in terms of summons, but I managed to win. This one, once again, turn management, so I had an extra summon against my enemy. So you can see there's the bread and butter, the method that I generally won by to get into Langrisser was heavily based on having a summon that my opponent could not match. So let's then demonstrate some of these battles. And I'll just demonstrate, I guess, the 3 examples on as I marched up from 1800 points to 1900. So here we go. The first one is against Campanella, which was supposed to be apparently a pretty hard battle. So, in this first match, I always get my Zerda banned now, no real surprise. And I ban my opponent's Listel. It's pretty much my bread and butter. I have no real way of countering Listel right now, especially if Listel is under guard, so I always ban her first. So I play Leonhard, and he bans my Juggler and Bernhard, my buffers, my faction buffers for Leonhard. So, he plays Zerda, of course. So I ban his Bozel and Liana. Bozel so he can't faction buff this Zerda, and Liana to remove Act Again and possible summoning. So I play Landius, a tank, and he decides to ban my Liana, and who was it? And my teleporter, Iris. So the reason I decided to play Landius in part was because Landius's command aura reduces damage from ranged attacks, so I figured that could let me potentially survive against Zerda. So I ban his tanks, Juggler, and I ban his Chloe, a healer. I didn't ban both tanks because he actually had 3, right? Juggler, Landius, and Ledin. And I play Tiaris as my healer at this point. So he bans my Luna, ranged attacker, and Varna. And he plays a tank at this point, Landius, which is smart because otherwise I would have banned both of his tanks. So I just banned his Elwyn and Matthew. And play Bozel. Not quite sure why Bozel was still in play, but I played her. And then he bans my Listel and Lena at that point. So I chose Bozel in large part because Bozel has a summon. Which, Listel doesn't. Lena does, but I figure I can't faction buff Lena if I play her. So he plays Luna. And so I ban Alte Muller, who could faction buff Luna, and I banned Leon because I'm trying to avoid any effects that can apply cannot be healed on me, right? Leon has Assault, Elwyn I already banned had Sword Soul, so it just leaves him with Ledin and Narm. Now I clearly know already that this Narm is probably very well built. Nobody would put a Narm into their party if it didn't have really good equipment. But if I had to choose between facing Leon with Assault or Narm, I'd choose to face Narm. That was my conclusion. So for my last character, I play Imelda. And the reason there is because of Luna. Luna applies fixed damage via her faction buff. So with Imelda, I can totally prevent that, so that Luna and Narm will no longer do any kind of fixed damage to me. In addition, Zerida, if she brings Backstab, won't do anything. So even though Renee is the better damage dealer, Imelda's fixed damage prevention would be key to this fight. So there we go. So as a quick aside, let me just pause this here. I have my Bozal, of course, with a summon for the turn manipulation that I mentioned. And he also has Sleep and Fireball. So what I figured here was Sleep could probably knock out his Landius, and then I can kind of wipe out any characters that he originally wanted to guard with Landius. At least that was my thought. So we'll continue. So he has the high mobility party, and I have the very defensive party with a summon. And as expected, his Narm is well built with an Uller's Bow. His Luna is well built with an Uller's Bow. He has Tiaris for Miracle and Attack Blessing, and then he has Zerida, who is actually a Killing Blow Bloodthirster style Zerida with Sly Stride. So not really what I expected, you know. I guess it could be that he modified his Zerida on purpose because he knew I had immunity to fixed damage, right? So he felt it was better off to bring Sly Stride than Backstab. In any case, so we continue. So I see that this Narm also has the Breeze Enchant for extra mobility. So initially I'm just hanging back because my first turn was busy spent summoning, right? And I don't really have a team that can push in the first place, especially not against the Zerida. So just holding back initially is what I've been doing, staying outside of the enemy attack range. So he starts charging forward with his Zerida and activates the Bloodthirster now. So, but he positioned his Zerida in a place where I could actually completely avoid it, except for the summon. So, I maneuver everyone and place them outside of the range of the enemy Zerida. In some ways, this was due to a mistake my opponent made, but if he wants... But hey, since I can avoid it, why wouldn't I? So, I do buff up as much as I can as well, though. So he applies Attack Blessing, so I just move my summon first. And actually, his Zerida was able to kill off my Bozal. And the reason he was able to do that, in fact, was because I didn't realize his Narm had Sprint for +1 mobility. So it looked like I could have avoided it, but it ended up being that I was not able to. So he got to choose to kill between Leonhard and Bozal, and he chose to take down Bozal. So then I just Attack Blessing my Leonhard, and he's actually been doing a very good job of staying out of range so that my Leonhard cannot act twice. So I'm just starting to approach with my other characters now to get them into the fight and force him to move, most importantly. So he's been forced to move that Narm, unable to attack me, and so I was able to send Leonhard in to wipe out Zerida, right? And that was possible because of turn manipulation still with the Necromancer, right? Even though he killed off my character that I never moved, Bozal, because I had to summon and I was moving second, I was still able to move one character last. Yeah. He sends Narm in to attack Leonhard, and Leonhard actually doesn't take that much damage due to the Royal Cavalry tanking all the damage with the physical damage reduction effect. He does, however, apply the mobility debuff on my Leonhard, so that Leonhard can't move at all. So he's moving up, right? The mobility reduction is kind of locking me down, but I do have the ability to remove it, which is what I go for. With Tieris, healing up my Leonhard. At least Landius is guarding everyone, so it worked out. So I can still actually turn manipulate because I still have the summon that's extra. And that's why he goes after that summon, to remove my turn manipulation. Especially since I can no longer summon one. So that worked for him, and I start maneuvering forward. Now, one key thing that turn that occurred just now was Landius. I decided to activate Tranquility on Landius rather than his faction buff, so that Leonhard can be guarded. And then I teleport Leonhard forward into Landius' guard range. Now, a huge key to this is that my Landius has Overlord's Badge, because Narm's mobility debuffs do nothing to him. Otherwise, I would have had a major issue here with, Landius potentially being locked into the poison. So, I start buffing up my party now, because I know Leonhard is about ready to attack the enemy. So he runs away and activates Sprint on his Narm, getting out of range. I now send Landius forward and have him faction buff while guarding my other characters. He activates Attack Blessing on his Narm in preparation to try to do a lot of damage to me. So I just start continuing to move up. Because the poison is rapidly approaching. So he continues to use 3 range attacks with his Luna and Narm, but Tieris continues to keep me healthy. And now I'm finally able to miracle up. So continuing to move forward. Now the interesting thing there is I purposely exposed my Leonhard because I knew Leonhard could not get one-shotted. And as planned, he wasn't one-shotted at all. So, and then he moves back. So, Leonhard uses the Dark Emperor Sword attack to rip these two. And then he uses Ethereal Fire Machete to wipe out Luna. And that was where Imelda's mass attack really kicked in for the plus 20% attack that I got on Leonhard for his attack. So that made a huge difference. So Narm, once again, with aim, trying to lock down my Leonhard. So, since he did that, I take Imelda to wipe out the enemy healer, Tieris, who is already damaged. And then I have my own Tieris heal up Leonhard, removing the mobility debuff, so that I can safely move him into the safe terrain. And at this point, it was 4 versus 2. My opponent ran away. So, he could now. I did mention he could have killed my Leonhard earlier, right? And he definitely could have done that. But I think if he tried, Bozel's sleep would have won me the match anyways in the long term, because I could knock out the enemy Landius tank, then start ripping him to his attackers with Landius, and then maybe finish it off with Imelda. So it's not like... So in a lot of ways, this battle was determined because I could turn manipulate. I could have multiple characters act at the end of my turn, which really prevented him from pushing into me properly. definitely, for example, the turn manipulation to allow Leonhard to kill off Zerida, that was key. You know, the turn manipulation that made it basically impossible for him to ever attack with his Luna, because I could always act with 2 characters to fight. That was key. And so sooner or later, with the turn manipulation, I was able to wipe him out when the map became small enough. So there was a battle of the summon helping me out a lot. Another example would be the I guess, 3rd match where I was facing a lizard? I don't know, whatever. So, as always, my Zerida gets banned. I never get to play her. So I just banned the enemy Listel, because Listel is just too annoying. And here I played Landius, my tank, for fun. Listel and Leonhard gets banned after that, and the enemy, as always, plays Zerida. So I pretty much a standard ban process, Bozal and Liana. And I play my own Liana. So he bans my Bozal and Lana. So I have no more dark characters to play. And he plays Juggler. So I ban Tiaris and Iris, the teleporter. And I play Rene. He bans my Bernhard and Varna, playing Imelda, which surprised me a bit because I'm not really using anyone with fixed damage. But I get to ban his Sakura and Bernhard now. Bernhard because he would faction buff Imelda, and Sakura because I don't even know if his Sakura is built or not, but I'm very scared of the heal reversal effect, so banned her. So with that, I was pretty confident enough to play the Juggler, the Mercenary Juggler at this point, and he bans my Tiaris and Luna, playing Rachel. So I ban his other tank, Landius, and I ban Vargas, another tank, and I finally play Imelda, my own Imelda, because of her talent, giving additional damage. So once again, I end up with Imelda in my party, and it's a pretty common theme in these fights for me. So my opponent plays Juggler first, and then moves Zerida forward, activating Breeze. Now, that was annoying because with the Breeze activation, my Rene is suddenly in range. So I'm trying to protect Rene by having Landius apply his Tranquility to reduce the reduce the range damage taken by 15%. Right. So that was the first move. In addition, I now move Juggler up and Great Dragon Barrier, so that Rene is immune to fixed damage. So that was to prevent Backstab from doing anything. So I was hoping that Rene might have enough hit points to tank the hit from Zerida, when the damage is reduced and when Juggler gives her immunity to fixed damage. And then I just mass attack because Imelda and Liana could both use the extra intelligence. And my opponent uses Gospel. So, right now, I actually do have a summon advantage from Liana. So there is that turn manipulation effect potentially going on. So I just move the summon first. And then I move Juggler forward and have him use Triton. And then Tranquility with Landius. So just trying to keep Rene alive and well. And my opponent chooses not to attack. Right. So it continues. Then we just move up. Now, his Rene now has Imelda's fixed damage addition. Or sorry, not fixed damage. 15% damage increase, right? From Imelda. So it's doing more damage now. And with that, he chooses to attack my Rene. With a crit hit, was able to one-shot her. So down goes Rene. And so I have to counter. I begin with Imelda attacking with Freeze Strike to wipe out all of the enemy juggler's soldiers. And he uses Mass Heal to heal up the juggler a bit. So, I move my summon, and surprisingly, my enemy moves in first with Beast Shock. Doing some damage to me, but not killing anything. That I really didn't expect, but I'll take it. And then I heal up my juggler to start. And I have my juggler Beast Shock his juggler, killing it off. And then I have Landius melee attack the enemy Zerida and kill her off too. So, and again, possible that I could move 2 characters in a row because of my Sky Archers. Right? I was able to attack twice and not take any counterattack from any of his other characters, which gave me a big, massive advantage. So the enemy Rachel comes running in with a Dark Reaper, but because her Gospel skill had worn off, it wasn't enough to kill off my juggler. And so I just moved the Sky Archer up a little to attack with it. And then he moves Leon to kill off my juggler. I expected juggler to die no matter what at that point, and I'd rather save my Leanna's action, so that's why I didn't try to heal it. So, I choose to go after Rachel then. Now oddly enough, he chooses to melee attack my Sky Archer. I guess he thought that it didn't have enough hit points to survive, but it did. So, gave me a bit of an opportunity to, heal up a bit and group up. Now, there I had no choice but to heal up Leanna because she was affected by Reaper's Breath, and if I didn't heal her, she would have been damaged. And Landius only had 1 guard range, so I had to self-heal Leanna there. Fortunately, he chooses to run away with his Rachel first. So I decide to guard my Leanna and activate Faction Buff. So he's starting to heal up his Rachel. And I just start weakening the enemy Leon. And Leon just runs away, activates the Faction Buff, and self-heals a bit from Chivalry. So he's totally out of range. So, it is 3-on-3 now, but I have a tank and 2 healers while he has no tank. So I'm trying to get into play to wipe out the enemy ranged attackers. And that's why I send Landius charging forward. So he had no escape with Rachel, so he decides to try to attack my Landius, damaging him, but not killing him. And then I continue to focus down the enemy mages by having my Imelda attack his Imelda. Clearly, I did a decent amount of damage. And since I was using attack skill while he was just defending. And then I just focus on healing up my Landius now, because with this kind of setup, my Landius is guarding my mages anyways, right? Given that his Tranquility skill was still active. So now my opponent is down to 2 characters against 3. I also still have that summon. Constantly. The turn manipulation allowing me to choose to act with 2 characters at the very end was paying off. So I just mass attack to prepare for crushing the remaining 2 enemies. And he chooses to ranged attack me, which Landius guards and kills off his healer. And I just heal up Landius to full, leaving just 1 enemy against 3 and he has to give up. So there you go. Another battle won using the summon for turn manipulation. And then the final example will be once more a battle against Bunta, where once again I have an extra summon that my enemy doesn't have. So here we go. So my typical ban, Listel. He bans my Zerida. And he plays Langrisser. So I ban his Zerida and Liana. Not often this happens. And I play my Langrisser. So he bans my Listel and Leonhard now. And plays Bozo. So I'll ban his Bernhard and Lana, both dark characters, and play my Liana. Now he bans my dark characters, Bernhard and Bozo, and plays Elwyn. Uh-oh, Sword Soul. So I ban Tiaris and Chloe, and thinking about it, I play a second tank, Juggler. Right? If he can Sword Soul 1, I'll use the other to tank hits. So he bans my Lana and Luna, my ranged attackers, and plays Sophia. So I continue to ban Rachel, Varna, reducing his healer counts, and play my Rene for damage dealing. He bans my Varna and Imelda. Not often I see Imelda banned, and he plays Juggler, so we both have 2 tanks. And I play between Tiaris and Iris. I decide to play Iris in this fight because of the teleportation. I figure I could use the teleportation at a critical point to win the match over Tiaris's Attack, Blessing, and Miracle. Yeah. Especially given that my opponent has Elwyn to basically disable Tiaris's healing after combat. So Bunta starts moving forward relatively aggressively. I start by hanging back and dropping a summon. Typical strategy. Now, I actually thought that this battle would be we both have a summon each, but apparently his Bozo doesn't have a summon. He brought Black Hole, Earthquake, and Seal, so he brought AoE attacking Bozo, which is fine. He was aiming for the debuffs strategy, which is perfectly valid. But initially, I just hang back as far back as I can because I need to get that summon out and then do some turn manipulation, right? So I just start moving a little bit forward, but hang really back against the poison with the summon, and I start sending my characters forward because I figured I needed my Juggler to be able to potentially B-shock the enemy. I actually made a mistake there. I actually meant to move in a way so that Rene could be guarded to launch an AoE attack on the enemies, specifically launching Decay to prevent the enemy from receiving buffs. But I realized I had to faction buff my Rene so that she would have, plus 20% int. So I had to do that, which meant that Rene, if she moved here to Decay, she won't be guarded. So that was a careless error, really. So I had to teleport her forward an extra tile so that Juggler, with his Triton active, would guard Rene. And I just have Rene toss out Decay at the enemies, her talent applying additional debuffs, and I activated clocks. Right? The debuffs on these enemies, a bunch of them actually cannot be healed. Bozo got damage taken increase, and then Juggler got damage taken increase as well. So some pretty good debuffs. And now my Juggler gets Sword Soul, losing buffs and unable to heal. So I move Rene back, launch now, and then there I launched a Freeze Strike with her. And with her intelligence at 1043, she was actually able to one-shot that Juggler. The interesting thing here is I didn't realize, but my Juggler also had cannot use passive skills, which meant actually my Rene is not guarded. But he didn't have any character that could actually attack my Rene. Right? The Landius was too far away, and Bozol trading ranged attacks would not have been a good idea. At least neither of them would have died. So he just moved Landius up and tried to activate Tranquility, not realizing that Decay completely prevented that buff. So I move my Landius up and activate Tranquility to guard. And my opponent tosses out Black Hole at this point. But I still have a whole bunch of characters who have not acted, right? Liana, Iris, and the Summon. So now I send the Summon forward to Dispel to remove the debuffs. At least on Rene and Iris, specifically. Then I just start moving Juggler to try to start removing the Sword Soul effect, right? And I've used Act Again on my Rene, so that she could start attacking the enemy Elwyn, who I knew was attackable because of the decay the previous turn. And my Rene has Astaroth. I was actually able to stun this Elwyn and put even more debuffs on it. So, opponent mass heals, and I actually make a mistake here. I should have had Rene finish off this Elwyn, but I moved Juggler. So my opponent was able to activate Tranquility. And the reason was because he used Rewind on Sophia. Right? I was thinking, hey, unless he moves his Landius up, you know, this Elwyn was dead or whatever. But yeah, that was a careless mistake. I really should have had Rene kill off this Elwyn. Nonetheless, since I couldn't kill Elwyn anymore, I just reactivate Decay on the enemies. And then tank the AoE hit from the enemy Bozol. And so I have Landius start weakening the enemy Landius. And I start having Diana try to heal up my Landius. And then Iris can apply another heal to basically remove all the debuffs that were on my Landius. So he has to heal first, right? Trying to restore hit points on that Landius. But I've noticed that this Royal Cavalry is no longer above 80% hit points. So, but first, I'll heal up my Landius to full. He tosses yet another AoE with his Bozol. But Juggler does a pretty good job in reducing any kind of damage I take. It's more just the debuffs, which is very annoying, right? You can see all my characters have insane number of debuffs right now. So, that is why the Sky Archer comes in to Dispel. Very conveniently. And then I just move my Juggler. And now, once again, I can move 3 characters now to start attacking. So I start with Landius, follow up with Rene to kill the enemy Landius for the first time, also stunning him. And then I can have my Liana just heal up my party. I could have probably ranged attacked this Landius with Liana, but then when I looked at my Liana, she had less int due to this debuff. So I figured, you know what, 706 ints, not quite sure if I can kill off this Royal Cavalry. I might as well just heal up my Juggler first. It's not like my opponent had that many methods of healing up, right? Because he only has one Sophia, unlike me. So he was able to have his Elwyn use Sword Soul to apply Cannot Be Healed on my Landius. So I just wipe out that stunned Landius to start. He now tries to focus on getting rid of my Summon. You know, clearly he's recognizing that the Summon is causing him major issues with the turn manipulation. So So now I just basically switch tanks. Instead of using Landius, it's now Juggler, that's my tank. And I have Liana use her act again so that I can completely remove the debuff on Landius. And then I can heal him up. And that's only possible, once again, because he's forced to use his Sword Soul before my tank acts, right? Due to the turn manipulation, he had no choice but to do that. And so I could move with Landius, act again, and move a second time to remove the debuff very easily. Another advantage coming from the summon. So now, it is 5v3. I mean, the battle is totally in my favor. It's pretty much over. I've been just slowly wiping out his party one by one. So I start with Rene, Free Strike, almost killing off the Elwyn in one hit. So, because he didn't die in one hit, he got to heal up the Elwyn. So I just have Juggler move up and activate its second guard skill. And then send Landius in to do a first attack on the enemy Bozel. I have Liana ranged attack the enemy Elwyn and Talent Heal. And at this point, you know, my opponent clearly sees he has no way to kill off any of my characters and retreats. So another victory. So there you go. 3 examples of where having a summon just gave me an advantage in terms of turn manipulation and moving 2 characters at the end of my every turn, allowing me to take full advantage. Right? And you know, a huge, as I said earlier, a huge number of my battles is based on that kind of theory for Season 1. Right? And as I said, here's another battle where that's the case. Here's another battle where that's the case. Here's a battle where we both brought 2 summons. Clearly both of us recognized the importance of summons, and that's why we had the summon skill on 2 different characters each. And yeah, so it just shows how important summons are for Season 1. And I will say, like, a huge number of my fights were won by summons. Other than that, occasionally there were fights won with, let's say, having just a huge team advantage, like Zerda and Bozel and so on. But that will be covered in a 3rd video. So, thanks for watching everyone. I hope you found this video useful. And on that note, Nitro out.